Good morning. So good to be back with you. I've been away for a couple of weeks and visiting the new addition to our family, my great-grandson, who's 2 months this week. And just had a wonderful time enjoying the new blessing of God to our family. And as I was there with him and we were changing his clothes, his outfits, and my granddaughter just changes him twice to 3 times a day. And he's got some of the cutest little outfits. One he's like the Winnie the Pooh, another one he's a raccoon, another one he's a lion. And as we were going through the different outfits and clothing him, I thought of something in the Bible that was similar to being clothed and someone trying to dress you up or make you or be something perhaps that you're not, because obviously he's not a lion or a raccoon. And so I thought of the story about David when he was a young boy, and he was a shepherd boy, and so he looked and smelled and dressed like a shepherd boy. But he had some very deep experiences with God when he was out there in the field guarding his father's sheep. And he fought the lions and the bears that tried to come to devour his father's sheep. God empowered him. God gave him strength to be able to destroy and to kill the enemy that came up against him. And so now as a young man, he hears a story that his brothers, they're out in the field and with the army fighting a battle against the Philistines, which were God's enemy. And his father sends him out to take some food to his brother. And David gets there and he realizes and he hears a story about this giant who is defying the people of God. And everyone is hiding and fearful because no one dares to go out and fight him. So David tells his brothers, I'll go and do that. And they just looked at him like, you're ridiculous. And so we go to the story in 1 Samuel chapter 17, when finally David makes his way to King Saul. And as he comes to King Saul, he says to King Saul, don't worry about a thing, David told Saul. I'll go fight this Philistine. Don't be ridiculous. Saul replied, there's no way you can go against this Philistine. You are only a boy, and he has been in the army since he was a boy. So Saul is looking at the outward appearance of David, a young boy who has no experience in fighting battles, so he thought. And he says to him, you're only a boy. But David persisted. And he says, I've been taking care of my father's sheep. He begins to give testimony of what God has done. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and take the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too. He says, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who saved me from the claws of the lion and the bear will save me from this Philistine. And there's another verse in the chapter before where David makes his proclamation, which is one of my favorite verses, when he says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dares defiles the armies of Saul, of Israel? No, the armies of the living God. David knew his source. David knew his God. David understood that they were God's people and that God was their king, even though they had a king, but God was the King of kings and he is the Lord of lords. And so as David persists on wanting to fight this Philistine, Saul finally consents. All right, go ahead, he said, and may the Lord be with you. He was probably wondering, what can this boy do? How can he be so brave while we're all shrinking back here in faith and hiding, defeated? What is it about this young boy? And so as he was so devastated and so defeated that he was willing to take the chance with David going out. But he says to him, then Saul gave David his own armor, a bronze helmet and a coat of mail. And he asked David to put this armor on, King Saul's armor. And David, in respect to his king, tries it on, but realizes he's not comfortable. It doesn't seem right, doesn't fit right. And so King Saul wanted to make this young boy at least look presentable and look like a soldier, and perhaps, the Bible doesn't say, but perhaps King Saul says, maybe they'll see my armor and think it is the king that has gone out to defeat Goliath. And so, many times when we get saved as young Christians, people sometimes who mean well and want to help us, they kind of want to dress us up and put on us an outfit or an armor that is not ours, that is not God's. We need to be able to move and to function and to grow in the essence of what God has for us, in the purposes and the plans of what He has for us, because we're all individuals, we're all different. And even though He doesn't change our personalities, He certainly wants to change our character. So being dressed or armed with the armor of someone else, trying to please men rather than please God, will only defeat you and not bring the victories that God has for you. We need to trust God and to know that He is the source. He is our rock. He is the one on whom we can depend on and trust in. And He's the one that will fight the battles for us. And so don't allow yourself to be conformed or molded into the image of the world, or even into the image of other believers, but rather put on the full armor of God, and you will defeat the enemy each and every time. And so we see as David goes out and he doesn't feel comfortable with this armor, and he takes it off and he picks up 5 stones, that which he was familiar with, that which he had done battle before. And it's not in the spear or the armor. The power is not in what you can hold in your hands, but rather in the God that holds you. And so he says, he goes up to Goliath, and I love it because David runs to Goliath, and David shouts, and he says to him, you come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you. Again, David realizes, my power, my strength, my might, my victory comes from the Lord. He says, today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone will know that the Lord does not need weapons to rescue His people. It is His battle, not ours. The Lord will give you to us. So we see that David trusted in God. He knew his God. He knew he didn't have to depend on a king or an army. He knew that the strength was not in a spear or a javelin or a sword, but in his God. Don't allow yourself to be clothed by other people, but be clothed in the armor of God. Be clothed in the power of God, and you will see and you will behold that which God will accomplish through you. And remember always to give Him the praise and to give Him the glory, for He is our God. Thank you, and God bless you. And don't just have a good day, have a God day. Allow Him to come into your life today. Until we meet again, God bless you.